Good morning. Welcome to Orange Coast Unitarian Universalist Church on Zoom. We respectfully recognize that our church property rests on Ahashiman and Tongva land. My name is Steve Morihiro, and I am your worship associate today. Beth Syverson, our Director of Music Ministries, is off this morning on a well-deserved vacation. However, she is still providing some of the music for the service, and we are also joined by guest musicians who are providing other music today. Phil Chipman, Liza Shaw, Susan Shaw, Barbara Morihiro, and me. We also just heard Barbara Schilling play lovely harp music for the prelude. Reverend Judy Tomlinson, our Director of Religious Education, already held classes for the children earlier this morning, and she will offer one for our youth after the service. Our minister, Reverend Sean Wilshire, is on vacation, on sabbatical, but she has a message for you.
Welcome to Orange Coast Unitarian Universalist Church. I'm Reverend Sean Wilshire, and I am so happy that you're here. But I am also really sad that I'm not there to meet you in person, at least not right now. There are two things that I would like you to know. First of all, we have planned a wonderful worship service for you. We work very hard, whether I'm in the pulpit or not, that you get something that is inspiring, that lifts you up, that gives you hope. And I hope that you find that here. The second thing I want you to know is that you are surrounded by some of the most wonderful people that you are ever gonna meet. And okay, I'm a little bit biased, but truly they're wonderful people. So I invite you to reach out to them, as I know that they will also reach out to you. So enjoy the service, and I look forward to meeting you.
Today, we are very pleased to be joined by our special guest, the Reverend Dr. Tom Owen Towle. Reverend Tom was ordained in 1967 and has served Unitarian Universalist parishes for the past 50 years. He is the author of 24 books on personal growth and engaged spirituality. His latest book will be arriving later this year and is titled, Making Peace with Our Own Death. In non-pandemic times, Reverend Tom volunteers at the Homeless Center in San Diego and sings at 3 different nursing homes. He is always delighted to preach in person or via Zoom at Orange Coast Unitarian Universalist Church, and we in turn are also delighted to have him lead our services. Welcome, Reverend Tom. I would like to invite you to open the chat box, and if you haven't done so already, send out a greeting to everybody. We'll be turning the chat off during the sermon portion of the service so as not to distract, but we'll turn it back on later in the service. As Unitarian Universalists, we have many different beliefs, but we are one loving community. We are bound together not by a common set of rules or beliefs, but rather a covenant. A covenant is simply a promise that whatever our beliefs, we accept one another and encourage each other in spiritual growth. We affirm that all life has inherent value and that all existence is interconnected. We strive for justice and compassion in our deeds and relationships, and we are committed to creating a welcoming community without regard to the traits that sometimes divide people. I want to extend a special welcome to visitors. If you are seeking a spiritual home, we hope that you will find it here. Shortly after the service ends, we will be placing everyone who remains into Zoom breakout rooms for 20 minutes of coffee and conversation. Everyone is welcome to participate in these breakout rooms. It's a great way to get to know other people in the congregation. Our worship begins with the lighting of our chalice, which is the symbol of the Unitarian Universalist tradition. As we light it, we say our unison affirmation. If you have a chalice or candle at home, we can light them together. Please join me now as we say, love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. To dwell together in peace, to seek truth and love, and to help one another. This we affirm together. Please join in singing our opening song, Lift Every Voice and Sing. This song is often referred to as the Black National Anthem and was originally written as a poem in 1900 by James Weldon Johnson and later set to music in 1905 by his brother, J. Rosamund Johnson. When we sing this, we are standing in unity with Black people and against racism.
Lift every voice and sing till the heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let her rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun, let us march on till victory is won. Stony the road we trod, meet with a chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died, yet with a steady beat have not our weary feet come to the place for which our fathers sought. We have come over a way that with tears has been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughtered. Out from the blooming past till now we stand at last, where the one gleam of a bright star is cast. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou hast brought us thus far on the way. Thou who hast by thy might led us into the light, keep us forever in the path we pray. Lest our feet stray from the places of God where we met, lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee. Shadowed beneath thy hand, may we forever stand, true to our God, true to our native land.
Please join with me in reading the words by the feminist poet Adrienne Rich. My heart is moved by all I cannot save. So much has been destroyed. I have to cast my lot with those who, age after age, perversely, with no extraordinary power, reconstitute the world.
There's a new world coming, and it's just around the bend. There's a new world coming, this one's coming to an end. There's a new voice calling, you can hear it if you try, and it's growing stronger with each day that passes by.
There's a new world coming, and it's just around the bend. There's a new world coming, this one's coming to an end. There's a new voice calling, you can hear it if you try, and it's growing stronger with each day that passes by.
There's a brand new morning, rising clear and sweet and free. There's a new day dawning that belongs to
Dear Orange Coasters, it's good to preach again in your midst, even if via Zoom. Deep gratitude to Reverend Sean and Dale Osborne and your entire worship associate team today, as well as the Zoom squad, Steve and Catherine and the two Barbaras. I want to share as my reading from the Reverend Eric Carlson. He's our Unitarian Universalist minister of the community of Kenosha. And his father, Dave, is a member of your congregation. And he, the minister of the Bradford Community Church UU, wrote these words: to the community of Kenosha and beyond. We, the members and clergy of Bradford Community Church Unitarian Universalist, are outraged at the violence perpetrated in the name of law enforcement on our people of color throughout our nation's history, and recently in Kenosha in the case of Jacob Blake, for whose life we now pray. Despite the fact that we cannot condone a violent response to injustice, we understand and appreciate the anger and frustration that fueled the events of last night. While we are relieved that our church home mostly survived the inferno and the lot next door, we affirm that we would rather lose 100 buildings than one more life to police violence. Some folks have already commented that our decision to display Black Lives Matter on our road sign in some way contributed to the fire, or that our support of the Black Lives Matter movement is hypocritical or unchristian. Indeed, all lives do matter to us. That's what universalist means. But given the overwhelming and disproportionate injustice suffered by Americans of color, we are compelled by our faith to speak up and affirm that Black lives matter too. If this is not your faith, so be it. But it is most certainly ours. And we ask that all folks be respectful in honoring our sacred calling to speak truth to power, protect the innocent, empower the disenfranchised, and promote equity and compassion in human relations. In the name of love, Reverend Eric David Carlson, on behalf of Bradford Community Church, Unitarian Universalist, Kenosha, Wisconsin. Please join me in some moments of silent communion. May there be peace and unrest in our lives. Unrest and peace. Sufficient peace to bring us calm and serenity. And enough unrest to keep us morally on our toes and spiritually awake. Shalom. Salam. Blessed be, and amen.
We will build this house with the strength of our arms, with food to eat in this richest nation on this world of cares. How much do we need to have enough to share? We will build this house with the strength of our arms, with the love of our neighbors. We will build this house. We will build this house as a shelter from our harm. With the open door of justice, we will build this house.
On Labor Day weekend, we honor and recognize the American labor movement and the contributions of all workers, including the lifelong labor of everyone in this sanctuary and in your homes, to the development and achievements of the United States of America. And also let us pay deep tribute to those folks who are struggling to find work or who are desperate without work. As Unitarian Universalist and civil rights leader Whitney Young used to say, the hardest job of all is not having one. On this particular Labor Day weekend, 2020, we would salute our foremost job as American people, building a land of liberty and justice for all. Oh, we surely have other jobs to accomplish as well, but there is no greater vocation when people are oppressed and devalued, especially Black and Indigenous people of color, than reaffirming our moral work of creating a country where our pledge of allegiance of liberty and justice for all becomes an enduring reality. I want to start with uplifting words from President Abraham Lincoln's first inaugural address in 1861, words delivered on the eve of the Civil War, and words focused on saving the Union, words which speak volumes to our present day America. We are not enemies, but friends. Though passion may have strained, it must not break our bonds of affection. The mystic chords of memory will swell when again touched, as surely they will be, by the better angels of our nature. So friends, no matter how divided and demoralized our country is during the season of a ravaging pandemic, compounded by savage racial oppression and economic inequities, plus Hurricane Laura and fires in California. Despite all of that, if we're ever going to move toward forming a more perfect union, then we must appeal as Americans to the better angels of our nature. As Sikh author, filmmaker, and civil rights activist Valerie Kaur puts it in her brand new superlative book, See No Stranger, a memoir and manifesto of revolutionary love. If you purchased or get from the library no other book in the remaining months of 2020, See No Stranger by Valerie Kaur. And she writes, we must choose to enter into wonder and grieving and labor for others, for our opponents. She intentionally uses the term opponent rather than enemy. For others, for our opponents, and for ourselves in order to transform the world around us. We need to see more and more kinds of people as part of us, or parts of us we do not yet know, for they are our siblings. Each of us is but a partial shareholder for a short time on a tiny corner of the planet. And our primary mission is simply to become responsible and caring stewards from birth unto death. That's all we have to be and do. Become responsible and caring stewards of the earth during our lifetimes. That's our job description, and all of our names are on it. And when we fall backwards or slump sideways, we can always return to the guidance and grounding of our Unitarian Universalism. For me, there are 4 words that capture the core of our progressive faith: an ever-evolving love. I believe that this phrase will enable us to embody the better angels of our nature as we struggle to reshape the soul of America, an ever-evolving love. Dear ones, now's the time. Now's the time to go to our chosen faith for help. Understandably, we often turn to science, politics, sociology, and the wisdom of world religions, but we sometimes forget to turn to our own faith for strength and direction. So I'm going to preach our Unitarian Universalist brand of theology today. I want us to remember who we truly are and where we've come from historically and spiritually. Our Unitarian emphasis is the rallying cry of 16th century Transylvanian pioneer Francis David, Semper Reformanda, or always reforming. And remember, this dictate charges us to both change external reality and be changed internally, reforming and being reformed all the way home. Ever-evolving creations. You see, in the 16th century, religion was a matter of life and death, with formal debates being held regularly. In this particular case, between the defender of the Trinity, Peter Mellius, and the advocate of the unity of God, Francis David. And their fierce debate ran for 10 days, starting at 5 a.m. each morning. Placed in perspective, on good days, pre-pandemic, 5 a.m. is a time I might arise to go to my gym for a workout, but hardly bounding up to engage in weighty theological discourse. And it took 2 days merely to establish the ground rules for the Mellius-David confrontation. And before the contest, Mellius said to David, "If I win this debate, you will be executed." David calmly retorted, "And if I win this debate, you and everyone else in this land will be given the religious freedom and tolerance due every human being." What an earth-shaking difference in theology, one desperately needed today, where dogmatism and lies and bigotry and violence are creating an uncivil war in our own homeland. Fortunately, David won, and many were converted to Unitarianism, including John Sigismund the King, who immediately issued the Western world's first edict of religious toleration in 1568. Imagine that. Sadly, the period of religious openness was short-lived. For Sigismund, a frail but noble monarch, died 3 years later in 1571, and a repressive emperor followed and summarily dismissed David as a court preacher and imposed censorship against any form of religious free thought. And since David was considered an unrepentant innovator, he was banished to the dungeon, where he died in 1579 and was buried in an unmarked grave. So my siblings, the core doctrine of our Unitarian site is Semper Reformanda, always reforming and being reformed. It means that you and I can evolve, grow, and change spiritually all our days and nights on earth. That's good news. That's good news indeed. Here's a personal example In my men's soulful and prophetic work since 1973, I have invariably employed as shorthand the self-identification of WHAM, WHAAMM. That is, white, heterosexual, Anglo-Saxon, able-bodied, middle-class male. And as a member of WHAM, I've been a lifelong carrier of unearned privilege and power and must labor daily to dismantle my very own condition. And so I've added ER, or ever reforming, to become a whammer, trying to bring my practices and my preachments into healthier moral alignment. And so I'm pledging, as are other self-identified males, to practice the messy, endless labor of dismantling all injustices that keep us on top and whamming away. As a card-carrying Unitarian Universalist, I'm pledging to become a whammer all the way to my grave. Semper Reformanda. And our Universalist core comes from Reverend John Murray's first sermon on American soil, September 30th, 1770, some 250 years ago this very year. Give them not hell, but hope and courage, and preach the kindness and everlasting love of God. As a Universalist, we believe every living being is welcomed into existence via everlasting love and returns upon death to the embrace of that same reality. And during our lifetimes, we're impelled to become hopeful and courageous practitioners of love. Loved, we love in return. And ever evolving love, that's our gospel. And our mission is to live by and to live through and to live inside it. Now remember, an ever evolving love will only emerge gradually and often with real difficulty, and sometimes not during our lifetimes. As Alma Crawford, our colleague, astutely remarks, in our tradition, discomfort, like prayer, fasting, and yoga, discomfort is a spiritual discipline. So I don't want to fool anybody this morning. You and I have chosen a faith of immense difficulty and discomfort. We're called to do hard. Remember Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s classic statement. If you haven't read it, track it down, from the Birmingham jail in 1963, only several pages long, composed during his 11-day lockup in a jail cell and with no speechwriter by his side. Here's but a patch. There's a strangely irrational notion that there is something in the very flow of time that will inevitably cure all ills. Actually, time can be used either destructively or constructively. Human progress never rolls in on the wheels of inevitability. It comes through the tireless efforts and persistent work of people willing to be co-workers with the creation. King's words are not only relevant for our ever-evolving anti-racism work as Unitarian Universalists, which we've aptly called Journey Toward Wholeness, but also prove useful for every personal and spiritual struggle in which we humans are embroiled. For time is neutral. It's what we do with our time that matters. Semper Reformanda means keeping on, and keeping on growing and reforming both self and society until when we die, we are incomplete and unfinished practitioners of an ever-evolving love. To be sure, as a homestretch elder, as a whammer. My seasons are numbered. Yet they are currently filled with growing faith and hope and love. Despite our 400 plus years of virulent, intractable racism, I perceive shining sparks of promise. The protests throughout America and abroad have been essentially peaceful and purposeful. And they're not only transpiring in cities, but in rural communities as well. And these rallies and marches are bursting with greater numbers of whites and younger folks than ever before. Surfers, med students, skateboarders, and corporate lawyers are joining hands for greater police reform in laid-back San Diego. Yes, this new activist generation is signing on as lifers in hot and deep pursuit of forging once and for all a multi-racial democracy. And the soul of this grizzled civil rights veteran, whose very life was changed when marching in Selma back in 1965, is surging with positivity as these fresh troops of moral lieutenants are fighting anti-blackness with righteous rage. When Carolyn and I returned to Selma for the 50th anniversary, we were blessed to hear Opal Tometi, one of the young adult founders of Black Lives Matter. And after she spoke, I turned to Carolyn and tearfully said, okay, the cause is in good hands with the Opal Tometis of the world. When it's our time to go, we can leave with renewed hope and peace. And recently, within the span of 1 week, there was hopeful news of the first in a series of lawsuits siding with the Standing Rock tribal sovereignty in opposition to the Dakota Access Pipeline. Plus, surprising Supreme Court support of the rights of dreamers and the LGBTQIA plus folks. Tiny and awkward steps, to be sure. But nonetheless, these are steps forward toward greater justice and joy. Semper reformanda. More good news to report. Our granddaughter, Corinne, currently teaching ESL in South Korea, is waking up as well. And here's but a portion of the passionate letter she penned after the most recent police murders of Black Americans. Hey, Gramp, why haven't I been outraged my entire life? It's taken me 22 years to discover the verb in activism. It's a word that requires action. It's taken me this long to find that being an ally isn't synonymous with being not racist. And all I can really say is thank goodness it didn't take me a moment longer. 2020 will be the year that we woke up. Love, Corinne. Oh, dear granddaughter, your fearlessness is palpable. We can feel your energy toward restructuring the soul of your native soil. And Corinne, there's no need to apologize that you're getting truth at the age of 22. John Lewis, at the age of 21, signed on as one of the original freedom riders. John Lewis spent 34 years as the conscience of Congress. John Lewis was writing legislation to secure voters' rights the week before he died at the age of 80. Yes, Corinne, you are choosing, starting right now like Brother John, to get into good, necessary trouble and to become a lifer for greater freedom and justice for all. Ever onward. Semper reformanda in the name of love. Simply stay woke. Okay. We've got hordes of new, fiery, yet grounded activists. But the question persists. How can a white male geezer contribute? Well, for starters, I can listen empathetically to BIPOC siblings, Black, Indigenous, people of color siblings, heeding what they specifically want and need. I can also participate in our UUA-sponsored Beloved Conversation series, which occasions painful yet substantive discussions about race. And when the right moment calls, I can answer by being a bold and brave white anti-racist ally, accomplice, advocate, rather than being another guy simply laden with guilt and fragility. Folks, it's unlikely that we will return to physical, economic, environmental, or medical normalcy soon or ever. But might this just be the golden opportunity for us to create a new moral order of increasing mercy and justice for all? Might this just be the season when we finally address climate change and global warming? Might this apocalyptic time motivate us to save ourselves from ourselves? Or will we carelessly, nonchalantly succumb to oppression of the least and the lost and the last among us? And so I keep returning to these four words: an ever-evolving love, the core of our Unitarian Universalist gospel. Despite our imperfections, we can keep on ever loving all our days and nights on earth. As Unitarian Universalists, we proclaim an unwavering belief in the unity of reality and the conviction that love is the undeniable character of that reality, and that we as distinct human beings are animated during our earthly stay to treat the universe as unified and to add our ounces of love to the mix. As colleague, the Reverend Mary Harrington, dying of Lou Gehrig's disease, so poignantly put it, what's the most loving thing I could do right now? What's the most loving thing I could do right now? Love begets love. Love we love in return. That's why we're here on earth. Plain and simple. That's why we're here on earth. And so as Unitarian Universalists, we work ceaselessly to make our world more beautiful and joyful and just. We write, we protest, we vote, we create, we sing, and we serve. And then we relinquish the final results. Along with our founder, John Murray, we contend that all of us are held in the arms of eternal love, no matter what we've ultimately done or not done. Held is the operative term. This day, one's entire life, and the full-blown universe rest in the grasp of an infinitely loving power. Rest assured, as our Universalist ancestors put it. Work your tail off, and then rest assured. Work your tail off, and then rest assured. That's our gospel. In closing, I want to sing one of our signature chants, composed by Rebecca Parker, the words, and Beth Norton, the music. It's a simple song which captures the soul of our gospel. There is a love holding us. There is a love holding all that we love. There is a love holding all. We rest in this love.
Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us, will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard life. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your heart. Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us, lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard
Unitarian Universalist congregations are fully self-supporting, meaning that members and friends raise all funds for the operating budget, ministries, and programs of the church. We are ever grateful for your gifts of time, treasure, and talent. OCUUC amplifies that spirit of generosity by sharing one half of the plate we receive with an organization that shares our values. For the month of August, through this program, we contributed $835 to Community Action Partnership of Orange County. Thank you for your generosity. This month, we are supporting Stand Up for Kids. Their mission statement is ending the cycle of youth homelessness. We do this in cities across America, one youth at a time. Their vision is we strive to build communities where all youth know care, feel loved, and have a support system to help them move quickly from surviving to thriving. Additional information about this organization is on the screen. There are 3 ways in which you can give online. The first is through our website, www.ocuuc.org. The second through an app called Give. You can download it from the App Store for your smartphone, and once you've set it up, you can use it for any of your online giving, including your pledge. The third method is by texting 714-942-1131. Simply text to that number and in the message type the amount. You can also still mail checks to OCUUC. Please mail them to P.O. Box 3770, Costa Mesa, zip code 92628-3770. For additional information, please reach out to bursar@ocuuc.org. As always, thank you for your generosity as the offering is given and received.
Go out into the highways and byways. highways and byways. Go out into the highways and byways.
Go out into the highways and byways.
Go out, give them not help, but give them hope, and give them courage. Give them hope and courage, not help. Not push them deeper into their despair. Do not push them deeper into their despair. Give them not help, but give them courage and hope. And preach the kindness and the everlasting love of God. Go out, go out.
Go out, go out.
Go out, go out. Go out into the highways and byways. Go out, go out, go out, go out.
Go out into the highways.
Go out into the byways. Go out, go out, go out. Let it shine, uncover your light and let it shine. Give them not help, but give them hope and give them courage. Give them hope and courage, not help. Do not push them deeper into their despair. Do not push them deeper into their despair. Give them not help, but give them courage and hope. And preach the kindness and the everlasting love of God.
Please join in singing We Gather Together, a song that puts our intentions into words and expresses our gratitude for the many gifts we share.
We gather together, we gather as one, for peace, love, and justice for everyone. We give from our hearts to show that we care. We can change lives with what we share.
Now is a time when we honor the important events in our lives. You are invited, one and all, whether you are a member, friend, or visitor, to participate in our ritual of joys and sorrows. Perhaps you have come here today holding something close to your heart, moments from the last days or hours that have struck you at your core. If you'd like to honor such a profound joy or sorrow, you are invited to do so. You can do this by lighting a candle at home. It's a wonderful way to honor what you hold in your heart. If you would like to share your joy or sorrow with the congregation, you can write it in the chat. Let us spend a few moments to reflect as we listen to some music, and then I will begin reading the joys and sorrows out loud. Please forgive me if I miss a joy or sorrow. You can help me to more easily find them in the chat by waiting to respond to an expressed joy or sorrow until I am finished reading them. We have a few joys coming up. Let's see, first off, Justin B. has a joy. He said, I am very joyful for the powerful sermon today. Thank you, Reverend Tom. Peggy P. has a joy. She says, our new solar panel has finally passed inspection. Glad to be part of sustainable energy. Sarah J. has a joy also. Happy birthday to her dear friend, Bob M. And a sorrow, and this person has a phone number, and so I don't know who this person is from, but a candle of sorrow. My wonderful friend, Ruth Glooksen, now New Angel, died yesterday. Some may remember Ruth from the Benneville family camp, where she often led yoga with her son, Jeffrey. Her smile and lively spirit lives on. Scott says, second that, Bob, and that's for Bob's birthday, I believe. And a candle of hope from Elise J. For her brother's girlfriend who was taken to the ER this morning, and hope for my house buying and selling and moving process to go smoothly. Our Justin B. has a candle of joy. Our family is joyful for the many blessings we've received from the cards sent to us. Many thank yous. To the family we were able to see yesterday, we are closing escrow on Tuesday. Mary has a candle of concern for her older sister, Karen, who is in the hospital undergoing extensive testing. The initial prognosis is worrisome. This is Mary S. Bonnie W. says, powerful sermon. Thank you, Reverend Tom, for the powerful sermon and wonderful music. Oh, and the candle of sorrow about Ruth passing away is from Francie. And Barbara S. says, Reverend Tom, your sermon was just what I needed right now. So again, thank you, Reverend Tom. And Sunny H. has a joy. My youngest grandchild turned 20 yesterday. And I think those are all the joys and sorrows that I see. Let us hold in love all the joys and celebrations and all the hurts and sadnesses, both spoken and silent. Let our joys remind us to be thankful, our concerns remind us to hope, and our sorrows remind us to connect. Let all these moments remind us that we are not alone. We will close our joys and sorrows with a poem by Joy Harjo, who is the current United States Poet Laureate, the first Native American to hold that honor. We all have helpers in seen and unseen realms. Give them something to do, otherwise they will grow inattentive with boredom. They can clean junk from your mind, find the opening note for the chorus of a song, or give a grandchild a safe path through the dark. They will not give you winning numbers at the casino, wash your dishes, or take out an enemy. Thank them, feed them once in a while. Let us join together as we extinguish the flame of our chalice and say, we extinguish our chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. We are a congregation made up of people who all believe differently, and yet when we gather together virtually or otherwise, we make up one loving community. We need not think alike to love alike. If you are a guest, a visitor, or someone who hasn't yet been known to us, I invite you to become part of this beloved community, if even just for today. We encourage you to write in the chat your name and where you are from. If you'd like to know more about our church, please see our church website for ways you can get involved and sign up for our weekly email called The Blast at blast@ocuuc.org. If you would like to know more about membership, please contact us at membership@ocuuc.org. Our community is enriched by its visitors, guests, and friends, and we hope that you find a spiritual home here. We want everyone to feel a part of this beloved community, so please reach out and we will help you to get connected. After the benediction, we will have a short period where everyone can wave and say hello. Those who remain will be placed in the Zoom breakout groups for 20 minutes. We invite you to check in and get to know the people in your group and welcome any visitors. Here are the events in our church's lives. These are the events for this coming week. Starting at the top today, we have the Atheist Humanist group at noon. I want to highlight the event coming up next Sunday. Next Sunday is Water Communion Sunday. I would like to please plan to stick around immediately after the Water Communion worship service for the exciting kickoff of our pandemonium auction. Your auction committee is planning a fall auction like we've never had before. Tom Lockery will give a brief explanation of the auction event, which will be completely online in November. So please plan on staying around for a few minutes next week after the worship service and before the breakout rooms to hear all about the pandemonium auction.
Please join me in sharing our closing words by Reverend John Murray, 250 years ago, September 30th, 1770. Go out into the highways and byways, Give the people something of your new vision. You may possess a small light, but uncover it. Let it shine. Use it in order to bring more light and understanding to the hearts and minds of men and women. Give them not hell, but hope and courage. Preach the kindness and everlasting love of God.
Let us join Beth Syverson in singing Be Safe, Be Well together.
Be safe, be well, you mean the world to me. Be safe, be well, you mean the world to me. Be safe, be well, you mean the world to me. Be safe, be well, you mean the world to me.
This service is over. Let our service continue.